To the Finns, a visit to the sauna means much more than merely sitting in the hot room and sweating it out. It is a way of life, a cultural activity, an opportunity for peace and contemplation, an act of physical and mental renewal. From the International Handbook of Finnish Sauna, written by Konya and Berger.
Hi, this is Nala, and welcome back to the Sauna Trail podcast. Join us in our adventures as we share the story of how our family discovered the world of Finnish sauna. You might be wondering why anyone would do a podcast dedicated to something as commonplace as sauna. It's like doing a podcast about playing cards or lettuce or pants. Well, if you stick around, you might find out that there's more to sauna than you realized. Today's episode marks our first adventure to Cokato, Minnesota, to participate in a Scandinavian Christmas Bazaar, where they were raffling off a sauna. We'll hear more about that from our special guest, Angela Meredith. We were also able to find a place to stay in the nearby town of South Haven, which had a sauna we could use. Then we'll wrap up with a visit to what might be the oldest sauna in North America. Like previous episodes, we'll show 360s of both the saunas towards the end.
The last few episodes highlighted some of the online connections we've made, how we learned about sauna through sauna books, which led to the wonderful opportunity of meeting David Salmela in person. If you haven't listened to our episode featuring David, I encourage you to go back and give it a listen. He shares about how he started writing and what sauna has meant to him. His wife Annie even chimes in a few times too. What did you all think about meeting David and Annie again?
Well, I enjoyed sauning with David. That was a treat. I always like to sauna with someone that grew up with it. There's always these little tiny things that they do in sauna that we don't necessarily do, like sauning naked in the middle of town. Although he wore his towel most of the time.
Yeah, Annie and I didn't sauna. We stayed inside and we just chatted, and it was nice to just talk with her and visit with her. I enjoyed that.
I enjoyed visiting with them again. David is really funny, and he wrote letters after they visited, and we each had an individual personalized note from him, and that was nice.
That was pretty fun. I enjoyed that. Thanks, David, if you're listening. So getting back to today's episode, Christopher, tell us how you found out about the Scandinavian Christmas Bazaar.
Well, I was looking at all things sauna related online and stumbled across a sauna raffle. Either that or someone reached out to me. I'm not sure what it was, but we found that there was a place that was west of the cities that was having a Christmas bazaar, and they were raffling off a sauna. So that definitely attracted us. Now, we didn't have a place to put one, but I figured if we won, we'd figure something out, just put it in a family member's yard or...
We would figure it out.
And so then we decided that it might be fun to go and meet these people who were raffling off a sauna and to see what other sauna-related things were there. I don't think that Cokato was on our radar before then.
No, I'd never heard of Cokato before.
So we started to research for a place to stay and didn't really find much in Cokato. I'm sure there's tons of saunas around, but didn't find a place that we could rent. But we did find a campground north of Cokato that we'll talk about later.
Because we were talking about David Salmela, I was actually looking through some of our old emails, and I found an email that you had sent to David asking him, because he was the only Finnish person we knew, you were asking him about this bazaar and if he had heard of it or if he was familiar with it. And this is his response. Nope, I don't. But if you decide to go, you will have a touch of fun. Cokato celebrated its 150th anniversary of the first Finnish immigrants that arrived there to homestead. They started from Red Wing at one point, boated to Minneapolis, and then 3 Finns hiked from Minneapolis to Cokato in one long day. In Cokato, you will find Finn Corner, where there's the first sauna in the area and an old Finn hall. I did a poetry gig there ages ago for some Finnish meeting and celebration of something or other. Good luck winning the sauna. That will solve your issues. What do you guys remember from the bazaar?
Well, I definitely remember the sauna, walking in the sauna, checking it out. It's a pretty good sized sauna. I think it was on skids, and we were just within the delivery area. So, and then I remember there were lots of blonde children, lots and lots of children. And they had some sausage that they were cooking outside around fires. The Finnish word for that is makara. It was very tasty sausage. I think they said it was made in French Lake, if I remember correctly.
That sounds familiar. Yeah.
I remember there being tons and tons of people and being kind of overwhelmed. And also, like, when you walk in right away, there was like a lefse stand. I remember the lefse.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I do remember that too. Was there grape juice too, or some kind of juice?
Probably.
I thought there was some kind of juice. And then I also forgot I think they were singing some Christmas carols in Finnish.
I think it was the second year that we went, we did sleigh ride. They had horses pulling sleighs, and we did that. That was fun. I enjoyed that.
I thought they had ice candles. Were there ice candles where they did the sleigh ride?
I think so. Yeah.
Were those ice candles at the Scandinavian Bazaar like the ones at Jim Curtie's sauna?
Yep. So it must be a Finnish thing.
Yeah.
So Christopher remembers the sausage. I remember there were a lot of baked goods. I love dessert, so I just remember there were some things I had never seen before. And I think we bought one, and I should know what this is. I should have prepared for it. But it's the pastry that has like the rice inside of it.
Karelian rice pies.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I liked that. I did feel like we stuck out like sore thumbs because obviously I'm not blonde. So, and then none of our kids are blonde, but I felt super welcomed. Everybody was so friendly. And once they heard that we were here from Rochester and we were here for the sauna raffle, like other families came to introduce themselves. And it was really fun. I enjoyed it. I felt like I felt very welcomed. Unfortunately, we didn't win the sauna that year. So we ended up going back the next year in hopes of winning it again. And this time we went with Greg and Clarissa and their kids and Christopher's parents also. I think Grandma bought black licorice, which I think is also kind of a Finnish thing. Anyways, it was a lot of fun the next year because we knew people, the people we had met last year, and then some of the members of that church or that were attending were part of the wood burning sauna Facebook group. So it was nice to see everybody in person again. I think my favorite part of that next year was they let Clarissa draw the winner of the sauna raffle. But we didn't win that year either.
She should have cheated better.
Yeah, she should have just read our names.
So we're going to tell you a little bit about our experience at the bazaar. And we actually met some Finnish people at their bazaar, and Angela was one of them. And so we're actually happy to have her join us on the sauna trail.
Angela, can you tell us a little bit about the Christmas bazaar and even a little bit about the church?
Sure. So the Scandinavian Bazaar started in 2012 in Cokato, and it came about, my sister Rena had started the Scandinavian Bazaar actually in Canada, and they had been doing it there. I don't know how many years it had been, maybe a few years or something at that point. So her and I talked on the phone quite a bit about this bazaar that they were doing there, and there's a lot of Finnish heritage over there in our church there. And so it was normal. A lot of the stuff that they were baking over there, the bullas and the gadiolampiricas and all of that stuff was normal for a lot of the families. So in 2011, we were building a brand new church in Cokato. And previous to that, we had bake sale, just a church bake sale at our town hall every year. But by that time, we were kind of getting like, it's just kind of, the excitement wasn't there anymore with a lot of the ladies. And it was just like, we just kind of want to do some kind of a fundraiser, but something a little bit different. And one thing we were really excited about, as Rena and I were talking over the phone, that, there would be a lot of really cool things about this, being able to do the Scandinavian Bazaar at our new church because of the location right by the Finnish cemetery and out in the country. So my mind just started spinning and her mind started spinning, what we could do to make this special and to bring in that Finnish heritage, Swedish heritage, the Scandinavian roots to this bazaar. So that's how it started. 2011, our church was finished being built, but then the first bazaar was actually in 2012. And so we had no idea what to expect, but I had spent probably about a year or a year and a half. I don't even remember how we did the process, but somehow I got voted to be the head of the bazaar that year.
It's crazy how that works sometimes.
Yeah. And so Rena actually helped a lot also all the way from Toronto, but just doing researching. And so we both started researching, where are the Scandinavian groups around Minnesota? What's in Minneapolis and surrounding towns where we could try advertise to or pull people from. So yeah, we did a lot of research for about a year or more. And then just started jotting down a lot of ideas of where we would want to advertise to. And still not having a clue what the response was going to be for this. But thankfully, when I presented it one Sunday after church to our congregation, and I had just kind of made a slideshow and just threw out our ideas and, basically just looking for support. Was there going to be more support for this? Because I knew this was going to take a lot of people to do.
Yeah.
And thankfully, there was a lot of willing help. Seemed to be enough excited people that they thought, let's go for it. Let's see what happens.
And that first year was 2011, is that right?
2012.
Oh, 2012.
For the bazaar.
And then did you have sauna the first year?
The raffle?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, we did.
Wow.
Yes. So we have had, we've given away 12 saunas for the raffle so far. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the sauna and how that works.
As far as, what do you mean? How do you
guys acquire the sauna that you raffle off?
Yeah. So it's kind of changed over the years how they run it. But basically the general idea is there's a head of the group of guys that is in charge of building it. At the beginning, there was, I believe, one gentleman that kind of drew up plans, and then there would be a head. And then sometime I think there was a co-head, but not always. It was more just hoping, I guess, that guys would show up and help.
Wow.
So it was like, hey, we're starting the sauna project, and we're going to be working on it all in the evenings this week. And so whoever can come help. Then over the years, when, we did a couple or few of them and saw that this is something that we're going to continue doing, it was going really well. And so we thought, okay, we are going to get it more scheduled. So we started, just getting more organized with a head and then assigned groups. Now I believe they do assigned weeks. And so a group of guys will be on, per week and kind of say, this is what we're working on this week. And then whoever guys in the congregation might have those skills, then, they come on that week to help out yeah, they just fill in, I guess, where they can, or take the volunteer help everywhere in between.
That's incredible. So do you have somebody who designs them every year, or does that change too?
We do. I believe the same guy has designed them pretty much every year. And now actually for the last maybe 5 years or so, the design has stayed quite similar. We just got a really, really, really good feedback of this more modern European looking design. The layout just worked really well. The styles, they put in maybe a little bit different windows, or little finishing touches are different every year. But like the frame, shape of the sauna has stayed pretty much the same, I believe, for some years now.
So do you have pictures of all the years?
Well, I don't myself. I mean, I probably do actually if I dug through all my pictures, but
Okay.
yes, actually, I think after last year, maybe, or the year before, I had asked about that. And so, yeah, I believe we had collected them from all of the years.
And then how long does it take for you guys to build one every year? How long does that usually take?
So they probably start, I'm guessing, around September, or maybe like after the kids start school again, is usually, I think, when the guys jump at it and get going on it. And then they're usually doing the finishing touches, decorating and whatnot, like within a couple weeks or so of the bazaar. So, yeah.
That's so fun.
Usually runs right up to the bazaar pretty much.
That's great. And then I know that I think when we went, I think you guys do warm it a little bit. So was it a little warm? I'm trying to remember. I can't remember if you guys do.
We do light it.
Okay.
We do light it for the bazaar. So it should be nice and hot in there during the bazaar.
And then what else do you guys usually do at the bazaar? I guess maybe tell us the name of your church and kind of the history of your church, or anything you want to about your church.
Okay. So it's the Cokato Laestadian Lutheran Church. Our congregation has actually been in Cokato for a little over 150 years.
Wow.
And yeah, so it's been there quite a while. And yeah, some deep Scandinavian roots there, families that still generations later are part of the congregation. Yeah, I think one big reason for doing the bazaar as well was we wanted to open our doors to the community and just welcome the community in to show more of our church and us and the Scandinavian roots and heritage and stuff like that. So I feel like nowadays a lot of, even tying to Christmas, a lot of the Christmas traditions nowadays have gone away from the true meaning of Christmas. Mm-hmm. And so it's really nice to just pull back to the roots of what is the actual meaning of Christmas. Is it all this shopping and hubbub and Santa and, all of that kind of stuff?
Right.
Or is it really about Jesus's birth? And then, keeping our, the music program to that, the very calming and traditional Scandinavian songs. And so that has been something that's been really important for us to bring in kind of a niche with this bazaar, and also with the Scandinavian roots. Instead of before we were just like a Christmas bake sale, but there's plenty of those around. And so we were thinking, what can we do to be different than all the other bake sales during the fall and winter and stuff. So, and then we wanted it to be an experience for people. We didn't want them to just come and buy our baked goods that are specialty goods. And, we're happy to share them and share those special baked items, but also to be able to come with family or with spouses or whatever, and have a nice event to come out to on Friday evening or Saturday as well. Is aimed more for kids. There's a totally different ambiance Friday night, but it's still been good to keep it both days. So yeah. And then the other thing is the Finnish cemetery is right there. across the parking lot. Of course, a lot of our loved ones are buried there. And have you guys ever been to Finland or seen the cemeteries? Okay.
No.
So that is really something to see. In the at the Christmas time, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of candles in all of the cemeteries. And after high school, I lived in Finland for a year. I went to school there, and you just cannot even imagine how beautiful it is. And so when we were doing this bazaar planning, that was part of it, that I was like, I would love to bring that here. And so, yeah, I went and I was collecting baby food jars for months and months and months from everybody. I was advertising all over social media and saying, if you have baby jars, can I come pick them up? And I was driving all over getting boxfuls of baby food jars, to put the tea lights in. And yeah, that's what we ended up using. And that's what we still use, but they've cut back on a lot of them because there's just not as many people that participate in coming to get a candle and go walk out to the cemetery as we thought there would be. But yeah, that's a really cool touch too. That's, has the Scandinavian roots to that. So that was fun to be able to have the cemetery right there and add that into the bazaar as well.
Yeah. And then you guys deliver the sauna, like it's on skids, right? And I think I remember, what was the radius? Is it 250 miles or I don't remember.
Yeah, I believe it's 150 miles,
Okay,
maybe.
Yeah, I think it's 150.
I think we were right at the edge, so that's why.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Well, we recommend for all of our listeners that you go check out the Scandinavian Bazaar in Cokato when December rolls around. And maybe, just maybe, you'll win the sauna raffle. But I think we'd like to dive into a little bit about your relationship with sauna. So you come from a Finnish background and you grew up with sauna, right?
Yes. So for me, there was nothing special about it. We just, as far back as I can remember from a young girl, we had a sauna in our home, in our basement, and it was just a sauna. That's where we had a shower in the house too, of course. So saunas were more common to be used during the weekend and actually very much for a social event. And so it was very common, and it still is for us, to call our friends or relatives and say, hey, come over for sauna Friday night or Saturday night. And just from stories of like when my mom and dad were young, it was the same thing. My grandma and grandpa's family would call company to come over Friday night for a sauna. And so that, I guess, is just tradition and still carries on to this day. And I didn't really realize it until as an adult. The benefits, the added benefits of having a sauna and sweating and detoxing and all of that, until I got into the wellness world, actually both Mark and I, and essential oils and using those in the sauna, and then started realizing, oh, wow, there's a whole nother world out there in the wellness world that are really trying to bring about saunas. And nowadays, there's the infrared and like the different saunas. So I don't know what all of them are, but I'm like, well, I don't know. We just had an electric stove growing up. Now we actually have 2 saunas, my husband and I, and our kids. We have 11 kids. And so we have 2 outdoor wood burning saunas. So no indoor electric sauna, but yeah.
So do you fire them both up at the same time?
We don't.
Okay.
So we had at our last house, actually my husband built that one. And then when we moved, we always thought, knew that we wanted to take it with us. That house was kind of a stepping stone out to our, what we thought would be our forever home or our forever farm. And so that's where we are now. So we moved it with us here. But then a year later, we bought the property next door with some family that has access to a private lake. And so then his dad, Mark's mom and dad live next door, and they really wanted a sauna down at the lake. And so last year, Mark had been cutting down trees in our woods and like doing the sawmill thing and whatever to build another sauna. And his dad is in his 80s. So he was kind of like, hey, Mark, are you going to get on that sauna? And I'm like, we already have a sauna. We don't need another one. And on the list of to-dos here with our family, that's like way at the bottom.
Sure.
But then we thought, you know what? It actually would be really nice to have one down right by the lake.
Yeah.
And so he had been, saving all this wood for a year and letting it dry. And then he had just gotten a stove from a friend. And then he told me, hey, I have everything to start building the sauna. And well, then within, I think it was 2 or 3 days, one of my cousins called and said, hey, do you want to buy our sauna? I heard you want one down by your lake and we're moving down to Missouri. So we were like, yes, perfect. So it was just, it took, a day or half a day or whatever to go pick it up and deliver it. And that night we started it up and we're taking sauna.
So you have 2 saunas, but then you have the stuff to build the third one.
Right, we do. Well, now we've been wondering how we can build. We thought maybe we'd do like a Makata Baista shack or something with that wood. So yeah. But so we had thought that the one by the lake is a lot smaller. You can fit comfortably 5 people in it. The one by the house, I don't know how many people you can fit in it. It's quite a bit bigger.
Okay.
But, and so we had just thought, well, the one by the house will be our winter sauna and the one by the lake will be the summer sauna. But we actually have only used our one by the house once since we got the one by the lake.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. We've been doing the cold plunging all winter.
Yeah.
So we've been cutting a hole in the ice and doing that. So yeah, it's been super fun, but and being it smaller, it lights a lot quicker. It doesn't take near as long to heat up.
Mm.
And I don't know, it's just so peaceful down by the lake. And I suppose it's something new for us too. So
yeah,
it's just getting more use.
So when you have friends and family over, as this kind of this social event, this gathering, which I think is a little bit foreign in the wellness world. Sauna tends to be more of a private kind of thing in your backyard or in your basement. But when you have friends and family over, what's usually kind of the flow of that event?
Well, okay, traditionally with, for years when we would just call our friends or family over and say, hey, come over for sauna. Either they'll come over and sometimes a couple will go in, it depends how many we have over. If it's just one other family, sometimes the couple will go in and we'll say, hey, just go in and we'll stay with the kids. And if that's the case, then Mark and I will usually have taken before and plan that we're not going to take sauna. Otherwise, sometimes the ladies will go in together and then the guys will go in together. And otherwise, if they're coming for sauna with the family, then like their family will just go in. And then usually we don't sauna or we already have if they're going to be going with their family. So now with the one by the lake, that one is a little bit different in the way that we always wear swimming suits because there are other people on the lake as well. It's a very small lake and there's not a public access or anything. So we always usually wear swimming suits. And, we'll just tell people that we can do co-ed and bring your swimming suits and, we'll all just go together. So yeah. During the summer, I guess the kids are all in their suits anyway, or we're just sauna swimming, possibly for many hours and, or in the spring or fall when it's cooler out. But if it's specifically come over for sauna, yeah, we'll usually probably most often it ends up being, if we have a group of people, the guys will go and then the girls will go.
Okay.
So if it's just a couple other couples, then sometime we'll all just go together.
Cool.
Yeah, it's that kind of information that you don't find out reading the sauna books or just watching videos online of like, like how does that work? And then do you guys usually have like anything to eat afterwards? You hang out afterwards, coffee, anything?
Yeah, usually we have coffee lunch.
Okay.
Okay.
So usually if we tell people to come over, it's usually probably around 7 o'clock that we'll say, come over for 7 o'clock and the sauna will be hot. And then they're probably there till 10 or 11 most of the time.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, the kids will play, unless it's just couples. We do just couple evenings also sometime at our farm. And then in those situations, yeah, we'll do guys go together and then girls go together. And sometime now when we've had both, we've said, guys, you can go down to the lake and do the cold plunge if you want. And ladies, you can all go into the bigger sauna up here, by the house.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I think that's, I feel like I say this in like every episode, but I feel like one of the things that I've really loved about sauna is that time with my mom or with my girls or with other women where it's such a wonderful time to talk and have conversation. And I feel like conversations can go so deep, so much quicker than if you were just having coffee at like a coffee shop or something. And so that's one thing that I've really just loved and appreciated with regular sauna with people. It's just such a wonderful aspect of it that I didn't even know existed.
Yes. Isn't it interesting? Yeah.
Yeah.
We do joke a lot when the guys talk about going to solve the world's problems in the sauna.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a common, comment.
Yeah.
Or I'll ask my husband when he comes home, so did you guys solve the world's problems?
That's right. That's right.
So, but yeah, it can be easily, especially, a lot of the guys do have sauna nights, even many times a week here around Cokato. And so they just have their text message, groups, or they'll just send out text messages. Sauna will be hot at 8. And then whoever dads they send it to, or whoever they forward it to, will just, after the kids are in bed or getting ready for bed or whatever, they'll just buzz over for sauna for usually a couple hours, but it can sometime, depending on the conversation, be, 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very common.
And I think it's such a great opportunity because I don't think we're good at that with our lifestyle here in the States. Like it's very hustle and work and this event and that event. And then to have that time where you are just with somebody else and that's all you're doing is so rare.
Yes.
It's not a good thing that we're missing that so regularly.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yes.
Well, I have to get on those tech. I need to get in those tech threads somehow.
Yes.
Those text threads. Although we're starting to have that a little bit in our area.
I was just gonna say,
especially with my brother-in-law, Dan. Shout out to Dan. There's a bunch of guys that he's gotten into sauna, and then I'm into it, and so there's someone just built a log sauna just outside of town that's part of our little circle, and another guy's considering his build. So it's starting to happen here, even though none of us are finished.
Yeah.
Yes, that's awesome.
Yeah, and that text thread is called Sauna Guys on their phone.
Okay. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, and we should mention Cokato, not only just having a Finnish population, but like there's the other sauna connection is a pretty large sauna company that used to be called Sauna Tech and then Finleo. It keeps changing names.
Yeah.
But they build sauna stoves there, right?
Yes. So I have known it as Finleo from me growing up. And the owner of it actually is my dad's first cousin. So yeah, some of my siblings worked there growing up. And I remember as I got older, at some point, I went to the Minneapolis airport to fly. I was going somewhere international. I don't remember where. And anyway, I remember seeing like an advertisement, for Finleo. And I was like, what? This is like Finleo from Cokato? What in the world? I had no idea that they were like selling international and whatever at that time. So
That's
yeah,
funny.
that's kind of a cool thing that it's right from Cokato here.
Yeah.
We can move on to talking about Mark's family camp. I would like to talk about their camp at some point.
Okay. Yeah. Not one specific sauna jumps out at me for anything in Cokato. I have mentioned actually just over this winter, I've mentioned to a few ladies that, how they do like parade of homes? We should do parade of saunas.
Yes.
Because I would just love to see everyone's sauna.
Yeah.
And there's so many of them are built, by the husband of the house, and just have their own cool little touches and designs and reclaimed, wood pieces or whatever, just their own uniqueness. So yeah, there's just so many different cool designs that I would just love to see all of them.
Yeah. And actually last month we went up to Houghton, Hancock, Michigan for
Sauna
week, and they had a sauna tour. So you could go see, they had 4 of them, and you could go see the 4 different ones, and each one was very unique. And I loved it. I thought that was the best part of the week, because then you got to meet the owner and the story. And like the very first one was a Savu sauna, and the man who lives there at the house was born in that sauna.
Okay.
So it was so cool. So if you do a parade, we would be there in an instant.
Yeah.
Yes. I'll keep that in mind. I'll let you know for sure if we do.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I was mentioning it to some ladies, they were like, oh, that'd be really cool. And then, some of them commented that, well, I've been doing a sauna tour for like 3 years. I just go to different saunas every weekend.
Right.
But they could
have 3 years to go to every different.
Well, like the bazaar, you could also open it up to, to people from even outside the community. I don't know how you'd want to do it if you sell tickets or not, but it would be cool to share that kind of really rooted sauna culture with people who aren't part of that. Where all you see is your gym sauna or maybe a mobile sauna, and they all look the same.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And they're all.
I know we kind of go to the hotels and see the saunas, and they have the signs, no essential oils, no water on the rocks, and we're like, come on, you guys. Why are you even taking up space here if we can't actually take a sauna?
Right. Sometimes Christopher will break the rules and he'll throw water on the rocks anyways, but it's always the rocks are kind of like dusty, and the steam kind of just smells funny. So I'm just like, I don't even want to mess with that anymore.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Well, so I'd like to hear you'd posted a long time ago on social media about, was it your in-laws summer camp? And it sounded so cool, and just the pairing with sauna, it was like to me, in my mind, it's like the ideal picture. So could you tell us a little bit about that camp, what it's like, and how sauna fits into that activity?
Yeah. So that's Mark's parents' camp in Michigan, and his grandma and grandpa lived there before they died. And basically, you can imagine driving in Michigan surrounded by woods. I think it's like 7 miles or something down gravel roads in the middle of wilderness. And then it's on a very small lake as well. It's called Elbow Lake. So his grandpa, and I believe it was grandpa and 2 brothers, actually bought all of that land around the lake to log. And they still have a lot of relatives that own the land around the lakes, or the lake. But they have, of course, at that time, the sauna was a necessity. They didn't have a shower in the house. And so it was just like, of course you build a sauna. That's where you shower or clean up. Yeah. So that's an outdoor wood burning one. And then, of course, as the years went on and his grandma and grandpa died, but then his mom inherited the camp with another uncle, which he has passed away now as well. So his mom and dad own the camp. But yeah, there's no electricity or running water or anything in the actual like cabin anymore. It could probably get up and running again, but no one's out there enough to put the money into it. So when we first got married, it's about 5.5 hour drive from us. And so it's a little bit of a haul, but over the years when we first got married, it was so amazing to be able to go there because usually there was never anybody else there, maybe one neighbor, which was a, distant relative of Mark's, but usually it was just us by ourselves out in the middle of this woods. And I just remember as a mom with, 5 kids under 5 or 6 kids under 6, whatever, just really busy years.
Yeah.
That we didn't have the extra money to be going, to Disney World or Disneyland and we weren't even interested in some kind of a vacation really like that anyway. I just noticed that every time we would go to Elbow Lake, as soon as we would pull into the driveway, I would just relax because you were just out in the middle of the woods, no neighbors, nobody around but wildlife. And the sauna, pretty much would get lit right away. And then it was just kind of sauna swim all day. For the kids, the lake there is pretty cold. And we would just hang out as a family there. Actually, interestingly, so our oldest daughter is 19 and she's with those grandparents right now in Florida. They go down to Florida for the winter. And so she's been down there for a little over a month with them. And I was just talking to her the other day and she was like, Mom, we have to go to Elbow Lake this winter or this summer. And I was like, oh, yeah, we should try to go there. And she said, we used to go there every fall for like a month or something. And we haven't gone for a while. And I just kind of chuckled and I said, well, we only went 1 year for a month. But she was like, no, we've gone like every month or every year, in September is what she remembers. And we have gone multiple times in September because it's so beautiful during that time.
Yeah.
We were homeschooling and 1 year we did go out there for the whole month. So anyway, she was just telling me that we have to go out there with our whole family, just us, and stay there. It was, and all these memories, she started talking about. And I just thought, oh, wow, she's like 19 and she's like, that's what I want to do when I, come back to Minnesota. Actually, funny enough, just today, she was talking to our other daughter and who is 12. And she was telling her that, this summer or this fall, we all need to go. Our whole family needs to go out to Elbow Lake. And you know what? If Mom and Dad aren't going to come, I'll just drive the motor home and I'll take you kids and we can go. So
that's how much she loves it.
Yeah. So our 12-year-old was just telling the other kids at lunchtime today that Savannah said she'll drive the motor home. And I'm like, oh, really? No, she won't. But it's really cool to see that, you know what? Those memories are really, really special to her, even though I just believe like the wilderness like that. And one thing she was telling our Nora about was washing dishes in the lake and how cool it was that, when they can just go scrub the dishes with the sand and take the sauna and, that she just really wants to go do that. And I was like, oh, wow. Yeah. Just another reminder, like kids love nature and it's so important to get them out there.
Well, yeah, and it's not just Savannah that's compelling. I still remember your Facebook post from several years ago where you described a little bit of it, and I was like, that sounds like the way you do it. off the grid. You've got a sauna. You're in the woods with family. That sounds amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we
Yes.
forget how wonderful the simple things in life are. Like
Totally.
that there's such beauty and peace in those moments of just being present in nature without the noise and the lights and the cell phones and the social media. Like that doesn't bring fulfillment.
Totally. Yep.
So,
Yep. That was one nice thing too, is usually all cell service would die out there. So now some of them work out there, but still, I think it's just habit that once we get there, you just shut off the phone and leave it in the van. Other than when I take pictures, then I'll go get it to snap pictures. But yeah, the same draw for social media is not there at all
yeah.
when you're out in a place like that.
Yeah.
You've mentioned essential oils a couple times, and so you and your husband have a company, right? Where you do essential oils. Is that right?
Yeah, well, we are distributors for Young
Distributors?
Living
Okay.
Essentials.
And so
Yeah.
you know a lot about them. So maybe you could share with people like which essential oils you like and how you use them in the sauna.
Yes, we have been using the Young Living Essential Oils for over 18 years.
Wow.
And we use them primarily for medicinal and daily uses in our life and raising all of our kids in the wellness world. But in the sauna, depending what's going on at the time, there's a few different eucalyptus options that are all great for in the sauna. And that's probably what people are most familiar with, are the eucalyptus options.
Mm-hmm.
But there are, so one that is super, super good, especially for addressing emotions with men, is Idaho Blue Spruce. And it is really, really good. And then one of the favorite blends of our friends in Finland, the guys, is orange and lavender.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that's a really interesting combo. And honestly, myself, I don't love the smell of lavender. It's just a little too florally or something for me.
Yeah.
But when you mix orange and lavender, it's really amazing. So that's a really good blend. And then, yeah, it just depends what's going on at the time. If it's a situation where there's respiratory stuff going on, there's a lot of different blends like RC, Raven, frankincense is really good. Like I mentioned, all the eucalyptus ones. There's a lot of options.
And then do you dilute them? How do you dilute them before you put it on the water to create the steam?
We'll just shake it right into the water.
Okay. Yep.
And, but if we're using it like in a medicinal way for ourselves, we'll actually put it right on ourselves first.
Oh, okay.
And go into the sauna. So, but essential oils are super powerful for emotions. Mm-hmm. And the way that you want to use them for addressing emotions is through smell. So it wouldn't matter then if you put them on you topically, or if you put them, on the stove or in the water or all over the bench, or however you want to, use them to smell them.
Yeah.
That's how you would use them for emotions.
And did you ever use branches growing up, the Vita or Vasta?
We did not.
Okay.
Is there anything else that you want to share, or was there anything else that you wanted to throw out there for the world to hear?
Yeah, if you want to experience a sauna, you could come to the Scandinavian Bazaar just to see what one is, and to roast a Kokato outside and kind of get some of the traditional fun that way, or the food.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, otherwise, yeah, I think just it's really exciting to see how things are changing, or at least it seems like it. And I don't know if it's just because I'm in the wellness world that's who I'm surrounded by, but it really seems like saunas are catching a big wave here in the United States, that people are really starting to seek them out and, get them themselves. And whatnot for the wellness benefits. And even like the cold plunging, I chuckled this winter. It's gotten so popular on social media, and I just chuckle. I'm like, well, the Finns have been doing that since the beginning of time.
Right? I know.
That's just normal. So yeah, it's fun to see though everyone else catching on.
Yeah. Well, and hopefully 2024, the inaugural parade of saunas in Cokato. That's what I'm hoping for. So
Hey, that would be really cool. I might keep my wheels spinning on that one.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. You could definitely sell tickets. So we would buy tickets for that for sure. So
Well, I'll keep you posted.
okay.
yeah, that'd be great. Well, Angela, I know you're a busy mom and a busy wife, and I am so appreciative that you took your time to come and be with us here to do this kind of weird podcasting thing. So we appreciate it, and I'm just humbled that you were able to share your time with us. So
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
yeah,
And when you guys are back up in the area, give a holler and come on out for sauna.
Sounds
most
good.
definitely.
So let's talk about our lodging. We were going out in hopes to win a sauna, but as long as we were in a Finnish area, it would be really nice to use a sauna. Because as we keep saying again and again, we didn't have a sauna at home. So the only way to use a good sauna was to find one and go to it. So we tried to find some lodging that had one. Couldn't find anything in Cokato, but found a Methodist campground called Koinonia Retreat, and they had a lakeside sauna. So I inquired about their lodging, and they said they had a small apartment below the caretaker's cabin that they rented out for a very reasonable rate, and the sauna was included with the stay. So we decided we would go ahead and lodge there, even though it was a little bit of a drive down to the bazaar. And so it was located on East Lake Sylvia, like we said, north of Cokato, and it ended up being good enough, especially being right on the water, that we went back several times. So let's look at a few pictures of the sauna. This is outside of the sauna. You can see it's pretty close to the lake.
I think this is the closest we've been to a lake.
Oh, like
Like-
even closer than the UP.
Yeah, like in terms of the sauna door in relation to the water. I think this is the closest.
Yeah, so there were little changing rooms right over here. And as you can see, it's a pretty nice view. I think when the weather's better, they put in the dock.
Yeah, I think we always went in the winter, and I never saw the dock, I don't think.
So this is the inside the hot room. Kind of a small stove for the size of the room. You can see it's pretty large.
3 benches.
Yeah, not only 3 benches, but also like a lower U-shaped bench and then 2 straight benches along the back wall. What do you guys remember about using this sauna?
I feel like I remember it getting pretty hot. I don't know if this was just little me thinking everything was really hot or if it actually did get hot.
No, yeah, I think it got pretty toasty, and I remember the heat being pretty nice. Obviously, you're not super close to the stove if you're up on the top bench there, but it still had nice heat.
Yeah, I don't remember the steam very much. So it makes me think we didn't put tons of steam off and you were so far from the stove.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember steam either. I remember liking the windows. I remember sitting on that top bench and looking out the window.
The lighting was nice in there.
So I disagree with that. I mean, maybe nice during the day, but I don't know if you guys ever sounded at night, but they had like a campground light and it shone through at night. So I didn't like the lighting, at least at nighttime.
I do remember that now. Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, like a street light almost.
Yeah.
Oh, yep, I remember that now. Yeah.
And I don't think they had any ventilation in this sauna. So the only way that you were getting fresh air was just what was in the room or from when you opened the door, or we would crack the windows. So I think I remember it could have used a little more fresh air.
I think this was early enough in our sauna trail that I don't really remember analyzing those elements of like ventilation, steam, things like that. So I don't remember how that ventilation affected the sauna experience. I just remember how nice it was to just walk out right into the water. Super close.
Yeah, and it was a little bit, it wasn't like the sandy beach at the place we stayed at in the Keweenaw. It was a little bit muddy and weedy, but not too bad. It was pretty good.
Yeah, I think once I got out enough into nature this past year with the different saunas that we'd visited, I was much more comfortable with kind of the muddy bottom and the weeds. Like I think it helped me to like be like, oh, this is a lake. Like this is outside. It's supposed to be muddy.
No, I was not okay with the muddy, weedy, and I am still not okay with the muddy, weedy.
You're such a diva.
We need to get you out some more still.
Yeah.
Isn't
Drag you out there.
isn't that where Nala got the leech?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it wasn't a huge deal, so I don't think many people heard about it because I didn't really tell the story. But yeah, it was here.
That sounds vaguely familiar now that you say that.
Did you bring it back into the sauna to see how long it could survive?
Actually, I didn't notice it until I got back into the sauna. And this was the time when we went with the Ripstras, so it wasn't the first time.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, so we came back to this because actually this ended up being one of the closest saunas to where we lived. There were a few that were kind of in that same range, but it was pretty affordable. I think it was like $60, leave a check on the table kind of thing.
Yep, $60 a night. Yep.
Which some like more fancy spa saunas that you go to, I mean, it might even cost like over $100 for 75 minutes. So the ability to use this huge sauna right on a lake and have lodging, that was a steal of a deal for us.
Most definitely. And then we invited friends and family to join us. So I know my mom and dad came out one time. So my mom got to use this. Our friends, the Ripstras, and then Greg.
Yep. And we'll probably bring this up again when we talked to our friends, the Ripstras. They weren't just friends, they were like some of our best friends, and they only lived a block from us. So we saw them all the time anyways.
4 blocks.
And we were always telling them about, oh, this sauna thing, it's real good. You have to try it. And it just hadn't worked out. So actually, I think this sauna was where we introduced them to it.
I think so too. I think that's correct.
And then my brother Greg came, and he's already sauned with us a few times in Viroqua, if you go back and listen to that episode. And then also in Isabella, Minnesota. And I remember him and I had a chance to use this when it was in the evening. He drove over, and I think he heated it perhaps too warm. The side of the stove was red. I was like, we better slow down on the heating, Greg.
Which is not the last time that he got a stove really red, but we'll share that story later in a different episode.
But he hasn't burned down a sauna yet, so.
Not yet. Not yet.
He likes it hot.
Yes. Which I appreciate, but it was very red.
So, and then I think also your parents came and used it one time with us, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So this sauna, it's not the best sauna we've ever used. There's all kinds of things that could have been different, but it was good enough, and it got hot, and it was wood burning, and it was by a lake, and it was affordable and close to us. So it was pretty nice for that reason. And I've tried to track down the story as to why this Methodist camp built a sauna like this. But I haven't been able to figure out the story of why they had that sauna. And sadly, I think partially because of COVID, they ended up having to sell the campground. So it was and I don't know who owns it now, but it was a casualty of COVID.
So it is not available to go and use anymore, which is sad.
So there's one more sauna that we saw on the trip. We've seen the one that was built for the raffle. We used the one at Koinonia campground, and then there was also the one at Temperance Corner, or as David Salma said, Finn Corner?
A country block from the Laestadian church where the bazaar was held is a crossroad called Temperance Corner. It is the site of a temperance society meeting hall that was built in 1896. These types of societies were common in this time, just before Prohibition, and especially in the Finnish American community. UKTS in Pembroke, Massachusetts, is another Finnish temperance society on the East Coast, and they have a sauna you can pay to use. We'll tell you more about them in a future episode. Harvey Barberg met us there to show us the temperance hall, schoolhouse, small cabin, and smoke sauna. The Savu sauna, which was built over 150 years ago, is one of the oldest, if not the oldest, in North America. If you're listening to the audio podcast, you can see photos of the sauna and cabin on our website.
Yeah, it was cool to see these old log buildings. They really have held up well. And it was another chance to see a Savu sauna or smoke sauna. But yet again, it was one that we weren't able to use. So the quest to use a Savu sauna still is ongoing.
Thanks for joining us today as we got back on the sauna trail. Thanks, Angela, for taking time to share about the bazaar and your sauna story. Next week, we'll travel to my parents' favorite sauna, so come back to hear that part of our journey. If you haven't yet, join our locals community and say hi. It's free to sign up. You'll get regular updates from us. And if you enjoy our content and would like to support our podcast, Locals has that option as well. The address is thesaunatrail.locals.com. We appreciate all of our supporters and fellow sauna hounds. Our podcast can be found on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, and other streaming platforms, as well as our website, thesaunatrail.com. New episodes release Saturdays, which is the traditional Finnish day for sauna, also called saunapäivä. We hope to see you on the sauna trail.